Hello, this is Joshua Maria Garcia, and it looks like we're about to begin Reading Jonah Lesson 1, but this is actually Lesson 0.5 because I just wanted to share with you some of the resources I'm going to be offering as part of this course. These are free. Some of them you do have to sign up for. Some of them there's an option to sign up, but they are all free and really easy to use. So I just wanted to give you a little tutorial on how to do that. You'll see links to these resources on this video and all the videos which follow in the course. I also wanted to let you know that Reading Jonah Lesson 1 is ready to go. I just have to record it. So I wanted to show you that it does exist. It's not just some vague promise. It is here. And so here it is in my design screen on Canva. Did you know I use Canva for all of my lessons? Okay. The first resource is the flashcards on Brainscape. I use Brainscape because I think it's really simple and easy to use. And when you click the link below the video, it will take you to a sort of entry screen, like a pre-room to the course, and you can click on the study button there, and then it will prompt you to sign up for an account or to sign in with your Gmail account, and you can go ahead and do that in order to access these cards. But again, it shouldn't cost you anything. I have a lifetime subscription, and I have had one for years, so you should just be able to access the cards for free. Now, you'll see a lot of different decks here. Don't be overwhelmed by that. What I like to do is to provide my students different ways to approach the material with different decks of cards. You'll see that Jonah 1, all vocabulary is here, but then you have Jonah 1 nouns, adjectives and small words, and verbs. And the first lesson is going to be on nouns, so let's take a look at that. When you click on the deck, it will load the study experience, and you'll see that there's a word here, and this is ish. And I happen to know that ish means man, but it can mean like a certain person also. So then we're going to click reveal answer, and we have the definition here, man, or one man, a certain man. And so that's helpful. And I knew that perfectly, so I'm going to click 5. Now, maybe I see this word and I think, this looks like the word for truth, but it's a little bit different. Amitai. What's amitai? So I reveal the answer and, it literally means true, but it's actually a name. It's the name of Jonah's father in this case. And so amitai is just a person and a name. And so we're not going to translate that when we're translating the Bible. We're just going to transliterate it into amitai. So I might say, well, I didn't really get that one. So I'm going to click number 2. It wasn't not at all because I recognized it, or at least part of it, but I didn't get it exactly. And what you'll notice over here is that in each study session, the program is keeping track of how confident you are in your answers as well. That's what you're rating on a scale of 1 to 5. And what that does is it resurfaces those cards more often in which you're not so confident. And so the cards that you give a lower score in terms of your confidence about your answers will be brought back to you more frequently. And so the program is really good at following a pattern of study that is specifically designed to get that information into your brain as quickly and efficiently as possible. This system is awesome. It really works. It's based on a huge amount of psychological data. And so I really recommend using Brainscape for that reason. And no, they didn't sponsor this video. However, the benefit of flashcards is not just in using them, it's also in making them. So this program is not a replacement for making your own physical flashcards. Trust me. The reason why people like my courses and the reason why my students actually do learn any Hebrew at all is because I teach them how to learn, not just what they are learning. I teach my students how to learn a language. So I've been doing this for a long time. I know how the human brain works around language. I've studied Hebrew and also linguistics and parts of psycholinguistics, right? Cognitive linguistics is what it's really called. And so I understand how human brains receive and interpret and learn language. You need to make your own flashcards in order to internalize that vocabulary, because at this stage of your learning, it's not just about looking at a screen, hearing the sound of a word, and then repeating it back. That's great for learning how to read, but if you want to learn how to understand Hebrew, how to understand the Hebrew Bible, you need to be producing the language in all of your senses. And so I really encourage you to write down the words, to make your own flashcards, and to use Brainscape on the go. This is how you can bring Hebrew with you on your commute. Not if you're driving, please, just if you're maybe riding a bus. And it's also how you can bring out your Hebrew on a work break or, when you have some time before bed to study. Use this to bring Hebrew with you, but don't use this to replace making your own flashcards. It's really, really helpful to be writing in Hebrew and to be writing down the words and sounding them out and saying their meanings in English or your own language, whatever that may be. I know that I do have some language learners who are not native English speakers. So that's really what's important about flashcards, is it's not just about using them, it's about making them. That's part of the learning process. Trust me, trust me, trust me. It's really important. Okay, so you have this tool, and you also have this tool. Let's go to the main page, though. This is Safaria, safaria.org, and this is a massive online Jewish library with a just rich collection of texts in Hebrew and Aramaic and English and many other languages. And it has excellent tools for studying the Hebrew Bible. So we're going to go to the search bar and we're going to put in Jonah. And at the bottom, you'll see a lot of people's names. These are users actually whose text sheets you can view. But we're going to go to the book of Jonah down here under books. And we'll go to chapter 1, which is what we're going to study first. Makes sense, right? And you'll see here that you have the text in Hebrew and English. And actually, by default, it's going to look like this. And if you've learned how to read Hebrew with me, you'll notice that it's not just the vowels that the text has. It also has cantillation marks. So this is a cantillation mark up here. This is technically a stress mark down here. And then this is a cantillation mark. This is a cantillation mark, cantillation mark, cantillation mark. And so those make the text a little bit more complicated to read if you're a beginner to even intermediate student. And so we're going to go to text display options. And here's where you can really customize how the text appears. First, we're going to turn off the English because that's cheating. And then we're going to turn off the cantillation. And you can do that down in the vocalization section. Here you'll see an Aleph, which is the text with no vowels. Very scary. Then you have Aleph with a kamatz, which is the text with vowels. And then, of course, Aleph with a kamatz and an atnachta or atnach, which is the cantillation mark there. And that will give you the cantillation marks that show you how to chant the text. But we just want the text with the vowels. Notice also in text display options, you can make the text bigger, which is really helpful. It's a great accessibility feature. Not everyone can read these, tiny letters. Okay. So here we have the text the way we want it displayed. This is the way I would like to look at it, generally speaking. And now we can read. We can practice our reading, which I encourage you to do with every lesson. Practice reading a little bit of the text in the Hebrew Bible, not just on slides, right? You need to see it in context. And you can also spend some time looking for the words that we're learning in the text. So one thing you can do, speaking of making flashcards, is print out the first chapter of Jonah in Hebrew with no English next to it and highlight every word you recognize as you read through. And you can use that sheet of paper to track your learning, to show yourself, okay, I've learned this word, I've learned this word, maybe I've learned this word. You could use a couple different colors depending on how confident you are in each word. And so that's another tool for really visualizing and keeping track of your learning, which will help you instill confidence and will help you feel supported actually in learning that something's actually happening as you're moving through the course. Because sometimes it can feel, when we're starting, especially with language learning, that most of the things are things we still don't know. And so it can be really useful to show ourselves visually, physically, that we actually are learning these things. Okay, so that's Safaria. I highly recommend using Safaria. It has a ton of other features. I'm going to turn our English back on for a second just to show you what some of those features are. So first of all, Safaria does have built-in dictionaries. So you can double-click on a word and it will pull up a bunch of dictionary entries to show you what the word means. Now, use this with caution because not every dictionary entry is the correct one. And the system is pulling up all the dictionary entries that could possibly be true based on its own algorithm. And so it is going to pull up correct definitions, and it's also going to pull up a lot of incorrect and imprecise definitions for that word. So we want to be careful with these dictionaries. And usually the dictionary entry I'm going to be using is going to look like this. This is a BDB dictionary entry. It's sometimes called the Big Dumb Book, BDB, but it's actually Brown Diver Briggs. Is it Diver or Driver? I always forget. I'm pretty sure it's Diver, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, it's usually also blue, but there are a bunch of different colors available today. And it's a really old dictionary, so it's somewhat outdated, but it has such a high level of detail that Hebrew teachers still use it today to teach people about the linguistic history of the text and the documentary hypothesis. There's lots of data in this dictionary that is useful to us when we're teaching the Hebrew Bible, regardless of it being somewhat outdated. Additionally, it is a biblical Hebrew dictionary. It is not a general Hebrew language dictionary, and so that is important as well. It's looking at the text in its classical form and through that lens, and that's the specific lens we want for the Bible anyway. So other features of Safaria that are really important are that you can just click a whole verse and pull up commentary for it, and we're going to actually do this with verse 2. I'm going to click on commentary over here and click on Rashi, the most widely read biblical commentary. And so Rashi was a medieval rabbi from France, and he really is the go-to for understanding what the text is saying. That's his focus. He's not focusing on super deep philosophical things all the time. Sometimes he does, but usually he's just telling us, hey, there's something that's ambiguous or unclear about this text. I'm going to fill it in for you and explain what it's actually saying at a basic level. In Hebrew, that's called the pshat. He's giving us the pshat, like the simple reading of the text. And so in this verse, God is speaking to Jonah and says, go to Nineveh and proclaim. And Rashi's saying, well, what is Jonah going to proclaim? And he answers the question, my proclamation, meaning God's proclamation, right? And so Rashi is making sure that we know, that might seem obvious, but Rashi is making sure that we know that what God intends Jonah to do is to give the people of Nineveh God's proclamation, not Jonah's twist on the proclamation, right? And as we read the story, we might start to wonder, is Jonah really doing what God told him to do all the time? Or is he kind of missing the whole point of the exercise? That's kind of the theme of Jonah, right? So Rashi's making sure to plant that seed right at the beginning. God's proclamation, not Jonah's, right? Okay, so another feature we have here is built-in footnotes. This is the Revised JPS English translation, so that's a Jewish translation of the Hebrew Bible. And when we click on A, we'll notice that the JPS has for us a footnote letting us know that Jonah is also mentioned elsewhere in the Bible, specifically in 2 Kings 14:25. Did you know that? Jonah appears outside of the book of Jonah itself. And so we can actually just click on the citation and it will pull up a second window for us showing us where he actually appears. And here he's letting, 2 Kings is letting us know that Jonah was a prophet during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and tells us that it's Jonah, son of Amittai, so we're very clear that it's the same one. And it even tells us where he's from, Gat Hefer, cool. So that's another tool on Safaria that is super useful. The text is highly hypertextual, which means that it's very clickable and it will take you to a lot of resources when you click on it in different ways. So that's Safaria. We looked at Brainscape, and the next video will be Jonah 1 itself. And I'm so excited to get started here, but I know this is like a lot of background information to get started over the past couple of weeks, but I think it's important to show you not just what the information is, but how to learn it. There's a lot of teachers online doing this. You can learn Hebrew in a lot of different ways on YouTube, but a lot of what those teachers are doing is showing you information. They're showing you the language and they're showing you how they use it, but they're not necessarily giving you the tools that you need to actually learn it yourself. And that's the great frustration of learning a language, especially if you're American, especially if you're in the United States, which I know not all of my students are. We tend to teach language as a show and tell. And that's why you'll hear Americans say all the time, I can't learn another language. My brain doesn't work that way. I'm not a language person. The way that we teach language in the United States, no one learns languages that way. We need to develop our tools, and we need to provide our students with the tools they need to actually internalize this information through all of their senses. It's not enough to show and tell. We have to give people the tools and the understanding they need to be able to actually internalize this information, or it's not going to happen. So if you are, if you came up through a traditional education system where, you tried to learn Spanish or French or Latin or whatever, and you think that you're not a language person, I encourage you to challenge that assumption about yourself. You might have that idea from a method of pedagogy, of teaching, that really wasn't designed for human beings and human brains to learn language. It was more designed for teachers to show language to students. And so that's kind of my obsession in language teaching, is I want to bring language to you in a way that your brain can actually learn. And so I'm going to teach you how, not just what. Okay. That's enough ranting from me. Thanks for listening to my sermon. This is Joshua Maria Garcia, and I hope to see you next time.